This lecture is for The Living Earth, Unit 1.2, Ecosystems. Today's essential question is, how is an ecosystem established? How is an ecosystem established? Our first main idea, succession. Succession. Ecosystems are dynamic. The environment plus the communities of organisms within an ecosystem are always changing. That's what dynamic means. Some changes are hardly noticeable. For example, a lake may dry up slowly over hundreds of years and eventually become a grassland. An observer would probably not notice the small day to day changes in the lake. Other changes are drastic, such as those caused by natural disasters. A volcanic eruption, for example, may destroy an entire ecosystem, including all soil microorganisms, plants, and animals, leaving nothing but bare rock in a matter of hours. In either case, as ecosystems change, communities are replaced over time by new communities during a process called succession. Scientists have identified two types of succession. Primary succession occurs when communities form on a surface that was previously unoccupied by organisms. On land, the mechanical and chemical weathering activities of soil fungi and bacteria break down rock and release inorganic nutrients. In this way, they start to build soil. Early communities of the photosynthetic lichens and mosses can grow on bare rock, and these organisms further weather the surface of the rock. These first species, like lichen for example, to colonize an area are called pioneer species. Large animals are scarce or not present because there is little food for them to eat. Eventually, soil is established that includes organic material from dead and decomposed pioneer organisms. Wind-blown seeds are then introduced. In some environments, this will result in the growth of a meadow with grasses and wildflowers. The plants are food for animals like rodents, birds, and insects. Later stages of succession result from competition for these resources, replacing meadow with shrubs and bushes. These changes affect different species of animals that prefer these habitats, and eventually, the shrubs and bushes are replaced with young trees, forming a forest. This process will continue. The species in the forest may change until a stable community is formed. This type of community, this stable community, is called a climax community. A major disaster, such as a volcanic eruption, may revert an ecosystem to the start of primary succession. Less severe disturbances, such as falling trees, a fire, or flood, would result in secondary succession. Provided the soil has not been destroyed entirely, many plants can still grow from seeds or seedlings present in the ecosystem before that disturbance. Secondary succession after a forest fire may start with grasses and herbs, which then rapidly are replaced by pines, pine trees, and then possibly hardwood trees such as oak and maple. During succession, communities grow and replace one another until a climax community forms. A climax community has a relatively stable species composition, remember. Climax community is a stable community. Keystone species are often established in climax communities. A keystone species is one that has relatively low abundance but greatly influences communities and their structures. For example, a species of sea star living in the Pacific Ocean consumes large amounts of mussels. This feeding relationship, in turn, keeps the population of mussels down in check and opens the habitat to numerous other species to live in that community. If the sea star population were to decrease, the mussel population would likely increase. And as the mussels occupy more space and consume more resources, the populations of other species in the community would likely decrease. The sea star is, therefore, considered a keystone species because it maintains the stability of the ecosystem. Natural or human activities sometimes lead to the introduction of an exotic species to an ecosystem. Although they are non native to that area, exotic species have become an established part of the community if they are pre adapted to the new environment. Sometimes they occupy vacant niches and spread very rapidly. And sometimes exotic species are harmless to an ecosystem. Many exotic species, however, cause damage to ecosystems, and they may negatively affect native species by increasing competition for resources, by overfeeding on native prey species, or by overpopulating because they have no natural predators. For this reason, they are commonly referred to as invasive species. At this point, you should be able to construct a full and appropriate response to today's essential question. How is an ecosystem established?